beautiful friends. So life is calming down here at Casa de Guth. Um, we're heading towards graduation. Things are getting better. So I figured I would pop on and talk about my weekend. I had a great weekend. I write for our local newspaper, and so I received an assignment to cover a paranormal investigation group that's housed in my hometown. And they were going to be doing a thing at a local, it's a haunted attraction, like during the Halloween season, and then they do other things throughout the year, different events. And then they were having a big event because did you know that it's halfway to Halloween? I did not know that, but now I do. So I went, and I happened to have a through hiker here. She was staying with us, and she's like, I'll go. So I'm like, well, I'm going to take her along. And it actually worked out really well because I think we have very similar views of the world, and, obviously not exactly the same, but, we both have a good, healthy, generous sense of skepticism. And it was great because they actually split the groups up in two. So she went with one group and I went with the other. And it was fascinating. So the article that I'm writing for the newspaper is, journalistic integrity. It can only be what I saw, what I experienced, what I witnessed. It has to be unbiased. It can't have any of my personal views in it. So that article will be the article, but I wanted to take the opportunity, and I'll post the article when it posts in the newspaper. I'll post it below. But I also kind of wanted to talk about my own experience of that, and that's what I can do here on YouTube. So apparently there's a movie series called Hell House that I am not familiar with because I don't watch horror. If you've watched the channel, I don't like things I don't like to attach negative energy to myself, so I try not to put myself in spaces where negative energy exists. So horror movies are negative energy, in my opinion, for me, so I don't put myself in the line of that sort of energy. And so I was not familiar with it, and apparently it's got a cult following. It was like it's like a Shutter series or Amazon something. It was never in the theaters. And there are 4 movies, and it's about a haunted attraction that becomes haunted or is haunted. So, and again, I've not seen the movies. I don't know anything that's like the, 5-second summary. But it was filmed at the Waldorf Estate, which is where we were, and which is near my hometown. So this was a halfway to Halloween event for the Hell House, fans, and the people who came were from all around, like they were all from like West Virginia and Connecticut and New York. Like they weren't from here. Like they were not from here. So that was interesting on its own. So there was a whole evening of activities planned, and then the final piece of it from midnight till 3 was doing a paranormal investigation with a paranormal group that's in our town. And that was what I was there to report on. So I will lay out my biases going first. And again, none of this will be in the article that I write for the paper, because it's really, that has to be what I saw and what I experienced. But my personal bias going in is, a lot of times I think this stuff is baloney, right? I think there's a lot of confirmation bias, a placebo effect. I think a lot of, like logistically, you've paid like $250 to go to this event, which is all the stuff that you're into, and then they have this piece. So you're going to want to see something, right? So just like on its own, logistically, you're not going to want to walk away after that expensive experience and say, well, I didn't see anything, right? So there's that. And then there's, the folks that do this work, and I will say, I believe they're very sincere. I think that they do believe, and they do believe in everything that they're doing. I did not feel at all that they were charlatans, that they were trying to pull one over. I didn't get that fake, like the fake tarot reader, like at the circus, like response. Like I didn't feel that way. I felt they were legitimately authentic in their approach to the work that they do, and the tools that they use, and the experiences that they've had as investigators. I do feel they are authentic, but they've done this house many, many times, and so they have preconceived ideas of what's where and what spirits exist and things like that. Um, so even though it was an investigation, it really wasn't. It was them telling us what was where. And if any of the participants had like, oh, maybe it's this, it's like, no, that's not it, it's this, because we've been here a million times. So I felt like there wasn't room for it. It wasn't an investigation. It was more, that was more theatrical. And I don't think that they would disagree with that, because part of this was theatrical. So but it was cool to see all of the equipment that you use, because you see it on TV, you see it on YouTube, in the different shows, and like we got to hold like stuff and we got to do stuff. So I thought that was cool. And there were the two teams. What we did, what Bangarang and I did, is she went with one group and I went with the other, and then halfway through we swapped. So we saw the same rooms with two different investigation teams. So that was cool because you could kind of see how each team approached. And the one team, I thought they did an excellent job just explaining each and every device, like, this is what this does and this is how this works, and this is what we're going to do with it. And I thought that was excellent. Like, it was like really cool to watch the apps and the things that they use. And then the other team, one of the investigators is really, really chatty, like really chatty, and was just firing questions too fast that I didn't think if spirits were present, they would even be able to answer, because this person was going so fast. And it ended up being like just this person talking, and like you could feel that the participants, like, they didn't say anything. Like it just became this person's show. And that was a little frustrating, because I think when I switched groups, the other group is so much more engaged. But I think it's because that leader really like had people engaged. Like they would ask, like, okay, everybody ask a question, everybody do a thing. And so they really had a great rapport with that group. The first group, I think the one person, I think they mean well, and they're excited, and they want to be the expert in the room, and that's great. But then that diminishes the quality of the user experience, because they didn't get to be investigators. They pretty much listened to this person talk, like, and talk through, like, if they would have like an app and it would have like garbled stuff, this person was like just firing questions that I didn't think the spirits would have enough time to answer and respond. And then it was like, oh, well, they're just being a jerk today. Well, how about you shut up for 5 minutes and like let the spirits do their thing. So other biases that I go in with, I don't know how I feel about like demonic energy or things like that. I believe that we're all made from energy, and energy can neither be created nor destroyed. So, I think we're all balls of energy without our meat suits, right? So, certainly I believe that energy can get caught between realities and existences and planes of existence. I think that's true. So, but I don't know what the limitations on those spirit paths are, right? Like, if you get stuck, are you stuck to a room? Are you stuck to a thing? Are you stuck, and I know when you talk to, paranormal people, they'll tell you that. I don't know that I believe that, though. So, I don't know. Like, there were some stories where, like, this person in the afterlife is having an affair with this person. I don't believe that at all. I think that's horseshit. Like, I don't think that in the spirit world we're concerned with that kind of thing. And so, I think that's more like Disney than anything. And, again, I'm only going to report what I saw in my article, but just between us and our cup of tea, that was a little frustrating that, we're creating lives for the afterlife. Like, I don't think it works that way. Really what I was looking for was scientific. I was really interested in the scientific approach of looking at the spirit world. And I thought the equipment was great. And like I said, the one group really explained it really well. The lead investigator like showed everything and said, this is how this works. And she would hold it up to your meter, so it would show you that this is what will happen, if something is near you. I thought that was really, really great. I feel like the people who participated really felt that they were connecting with spirits. and there were some times when I did think like, I'm a very logical person. So I'm a skeptic. I'm an academic, so I'm a skeptic. And I want to discount all of the obvious reasons something might happen, because then if you can't justify why something's happened, then it is truly paranormal. But you want to spend the time to say, well, this could be the wind, this could be the air, this could be dust particles, this could be this or whatever, and have that healthy sense of doubt. Because if you go through all those things and everything can be explained, or nothing can be explained, then there's something there. I didn't think there was time, and I will grant that 3 hours is not enough time to do an investigation. So this is not a fault, but there wasn't the time to have that doubting. There wasn't that time to have that, really systematic, logical approach to what you were hearing, seeing or feeling. But again, there wasn't enough time. I was comforted that, a few of the people on the paranormal team are also skeptics. And I thought that was actually really cool that they were honest about it and admitted it, that they are, like sometimes like floors creak, and that's just what happens, right? So that made me feel better that it's not everybody's like hook, line, and sinker. I heard a noise and it's a ghost, and it's, Susie from the 1840s. So that I appreciated. I also and again, this is a video about my personal bias, not going in the article, because, the article is about what I saw in the event, and the event was great. And I think the teams were great. And I think the people that run the teams are great. But I don't know the ethical consideration. So one of the ghosts is a ghost that lives in the basement. And in a previous session, they had asked for last rites. Anybody can administer last rites. The Catholic Church, if that's what your tradition is, baptism and last rites can be administered by anybody, and they're designed that way because you can't always get a priest there for those things. So why wouldn't you just take them to the light and let them go? Are you keeping them so that you have somebody to talk to down there? Then that's kind of holding them hostage. So I have an ethical problem with that. If this spirit is a real spirit and they've asked for last rites so that they can go to the light, you as a paranormal investigator have an ethical obligation to take them to that light if you can, or bring somebody in who can, and to keep them around so that you have somebody to talk to when groups come in seems a little unethical to me. I'm just calling it how I see it, right? So, there were some things that I thought were a little, I don't know, suspect, but also I understand that this particular event is an entertainment event at its core, and that the folks who have come to this thing have paid for an experience. And so I'm willing to forgive that, except that I feel like ethically, I do think the work that paranormal investigators do is real, as I believe that exorcisms are real and important things and work to do. So I got interrupted there, so hopefully I'll splice this together well. So, as I was saying, I think there's an ethical obligation. If we want the kind of work that we do in the spirit community to be legitimate, we need to be legitimate. And so, when it's an entertainment activity, call it that. And because when we confuse the streams, when we cross the streams, when we confuse the issue, I think that it makes the skeptics and the people who are opposed to this kind of work, that they will say, well, look at that, that's bullshit, and that's bullshit, and they're fake, and they're false, and they're this, and they're that. And I don't believe that's true. I think that, that the work, I feel like spirit is all around us. Do I think some of the apps that exist are bullshit? Yes. Do I think some of the stories that I heard were bullshit? Yes. Do I think there's legitimacy in some of the things? Yes. Did I experience on a spiritual level anything in that house? No, I didn't. It's a dark house. It's dusty. It's moldy. It's smelly. So I think all of those things act on your senses, which will create fear or create whatever. But I also think there's a lot of confirmation bias. So, you hear a bang. Did you hear the bang? Well, my options are, I can say, no, I didn't hear the bang. Or I can say, and not be a cool kid. Or I can say, oh, yes, I heard that bang too, and I'm a cool kid. Look at me, I'm a cool kid. So I think, and then when you have the people telling you, well, this is what you're seeing, I don't need you to tell me what I'm seeing if it's there and we can all see it, right? Like, and so, I don't know. Like, I feel, if you have to tell me the story, then it's a story. If I'm experiencing it, and they have the tape recorders, which that was my favorite part, because that's very hard to manipulate, tape recorders. So we each ask a question, and this happened in Bangarang's group, where somebody had asked, sort of humorously, like, are you tired of people coming in and asking you stupid questions? And they were giggling, but when they played it back, they heard "I do" in the background, and you can't make that up. That's not somebody in a different room, like, manipulating this, like, 1987 tape recorder. So I would say that that's probably, like, a legit thing that happened, like, and then I wonder, like, ethically, should we go back to a house a million times to investigate it? Do those spirits get tired, or do they want to be released to the light? Do they want to stay there? Do they want to be trapped inside a haunted house? So, like, they talk about the cook in the kitchen, which they couldn't agree whether the name was Keith or Kevin, which was a little suspect to me. It's like somebody didn't know the script. That's what it felt like. And so they were saying that the cook that's in there, John, gets irritated at Halloween time because he doesn't like all the actors banging on his pots and pans. Well, I don't like that either, and I hate that at haunted attractions either, too. I think this was an entertainment thing, and so I'm okay with it the way it was. But I would be interested in going on a real investigation, where it's actually an investigation, just the investigation team, not with an audience, to see how they operate. I would like to go like that next step, because I think that would be more of an authentic experience. This felt a little bit Disney to me, but also I could see the legitimacy of it also. But I think it's really important to be clear about your own biases and expectations, because, like, if you're a medium, you're going in there with the assumption that you're a medium and you're going to connect with the spirits, and that isn't how it works for all mediums. Not all mediums work the same way. Or if you're a psychic, or if you practice witchcraft, or you're a druid, or whatever you are, right? You're coming in with a set of ideas and beliefs and practices that you do surrounding the spirit world. And so it's really important to know that you have that bias and to account for it, right? Like, if, I go in and I do believe in spirits. I do believe that we're surrounded by spirit. I believe spirits are positive, right? Positive balls of energy and light, that maybe exist on a different plane than people who are caught between this world and another world. That's a bias that I'm taking in. So I have to account for it, and then be able to remove that bias to look objectively at it. And sometimes I feel like in these communities, it's very hard for the people in it doing the work to say, I have this bias, so that prevents me from seeing this from an objective point of view. Because I'm very willing to, like, that's what I loved about the one camera guy who's married to, like, the head person. He is totally a skeptic. And he was so honest. And I love that guy, Alan. I love that guy because and then this other guy, whose name I can't remember, with curly hair, he's newer to the group and he's a skeptic. I think that's healthy. That's healthy because sometimes a creek is just a creek. Sometimes things can't be explained, and it doesn't mean that they're otherworldly or not, but trying to find a justification that everything in the world is otherworldly, that's dangerous because it's not. Right? But if you use logic and you apply it consistently across the board, and then, like, nothing can explain that tape recorder. And one of the things I get concerned about is the I do thing. Definitely everybody heard it then when they played back the tape, but it was somebody telling them, oh, I hear I do. And then everybody listened and then they heard it. I would have, if it had been me, just played the recording and made no comment to see if other people heard it first. Because when you're the leader and you're telling people this, because I'm a professor, right? If I tell you that Shakespeare isn't Shakespeare, that's what you're going to believe, right? So let them do the research. Like my exam is prove Shakespeare wrote his plays. Let them do the research. Let them experience the thing. And then they're going to come back and say, I can't prove they wrote it and I can't prove he didn't. Right? Same with this. Like play the recording, make no comments, and see what the people say. Once you tell them what they're supposed to have heard, they will have heard it. So I just think that would be my approach. But of course, I'm not an expert in this stuff. I loved the experience. I thought it was amazing. I want to say again, like I really genuinely felt the whole team, even the chatty guy, their hearts are in the right place. I believe they believe in this wholeheartedly. They are not trying to sell you snake oil. They're not, I think this particular event is an edutainment event. So I would love to see this team operating in an actual investigation where they're not, performing for a crowd and it's not an entertainment thing. Because I think I would see much more of the scientific approach that I was looking for. As far as my article goes, that's going to be about the event. And I thought that it was a brilliant event all the way around, from the stuff that happened before we got there to what happened where. And when the participants left, like there was excitement. They were, like, oh my God, we saw this and this happened. And like, oh, and Carson, like probably my favorite participant, because they were so animated and engaged. Like they were just so happy with the experience. And that's a good, like the production company that puts us on, which is, that's in this place, like that's your best advertisement, is that people walk away having felt like they had an experience. So I think that was very successful. I'd have to witness more, a different experience for the paranormal stuff, to get better ideas about what I think, about it. It's been my experience I've covered stories like this before, because I think I'm the only reporter who will do it, who will go to like the haunted churches and stuff, because they do a lot of this stuff around Halloween. And I've done other articles about this kind of stuff. I think in groups like this, the true skeptics are not welcome. They'll say, oh, we welcome skeptics. But do you? Because if I say to you, well, I think this means this, and you're like, well, no, that doesn't mean that. This means this because I know. Well, then it's not an investigation, right? It's like you telling me what I'm supposed to know. That's not investigation. That's not science. That's not discourse. So I feel like, and this is true in any field, bagpiping, Red Cross, every Girl Scouts. When people want to be experts and they have to be the expert in the room, they're the expert in the room, and there's nothing you as a new person are ever going to do to change that. And they can say, oh, yes, we welcome new ideas and opinions. No, you don't. What you welcome is somebody that's going to endorse your opinions and ideas. And that's okay. But call it that. Don't pretend that people have agency when they don't. So I'm not saying this group is like that, but I get a sense like whatever the lead investigators say, if it's this, and that's it. And we're not having a discussion. We're not talking about what we think it is, because this is what I've said it is, and that is what it is. I don't know, but maybe that's just because I will say that in this particular situation, that could be because it's a script for the edutainment part of this, and that's what we're going with for the entertainment part. And so this has to be this because that's the entertainment part. Maybe it's different in an actual investigation where they're going in and investigating a house that they've not been in before. Maybe it's completely different. So I want to make sure that I leave room for that to be true too, because that could be very well be true. So it was a cool experience. Didn't get home till 4:30 in the morning. Wrote furious notes because I couldn't write in the dark, so I had to write everything when I got home. Downloaded a bunch of the apps that they were using. Tried using them in my house. There's nothing going on in my house. But, maybe I'll go to a graveyard with them and see what happens there, and do my own investigation, because I am the world's biggest skeptic. So if I think it's bullshit, I think it's bullshit, and that's gonna have to prove it's not bullshit for me to believe it. Because I want to believe, because I want the evidence to be so crystal clear. This is one of the reasons I have trouble with seeing signs, because I want the signs to be truly signs, and I don't want it to just be my, hopeful, wishful thinking. I want it to be like an actual sign that my mother is present, or an actual sign that spirit is present. I want some kind of scientific proof. And you look up on YouTube for like, absolute proof of things. Well, a bunch of guys smelled something. It's not proof. That's not how science works. Like, it has to be confirmed in certain ways. And I think there are ways to do this that then totally legitimize the work they do, which I think is legitimate, which I believe is legitimate in the first place. But I want to help them improve the reputation with people who don't think it's legitimate. And here are the reasons why they don't think it's legitimate. Because, you smelling something and telling your buddy, hey, do you smell perfume? Well, now that you have it in your head, your mind will create that smell for you to smell. Bring the person over. Have them stand there. If the person says, holy smokes, it smells like perfume, then you know that you both smelled it, right? Put it in your notes first before you call them over. Have them come over. Have them stand there. If they say, wow, I smell perfume, show them your notes. I smelled it too. That's now two of you confirming without confirmation bias, right? So there's ways to do it, and I think, I don't know. Anyway, I loved it, and I love the company that put it on. I love the woman who owns the space. I love what she does for the community, because she really gives teenagers a place to be during the fall. It's a passion project for her. I'm sure she's not making a lot of money after her bills are paid. She's probably not making anything, but she's doing a great service to the community. So I think overall, and this Hell House thing, I think that's fantastic for our area. I think it's fantastic for that company. That's what I have to say about it. So I'll be back to reading runes tomorrow. I am wishing you all the very best in light and love. Be well. Bye-bye.